Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am so glad that you're here with us today. If your brain is feeling foggy, it's fried, or like it's just not working the way that it used to, you're not imagining it. And more importantly, you are not alone. So, we actually live in a world that is constantly on. We're constantly connected. We're constantly getting notifications. We're always looking at screens. We're scrolling. We're multitasking. And this is pushing our nervous systems past what they were designed to do, what they were designed to handle. And that chronic stimulation adds up, right? It adds up mentally, it adds up emotionally, and it adds up physically. So, today's session isn't about doing more or fixing yourself. It's about understanding why you feel this way in the first place and what your body actually needs in order to recover. So, today we're going to explore what's really happening in your brain and your body when you're feeling fried, why technology and why sensory overload are making it worse, and how to begin resetting. And when we talk about resetting, we don't want to do this with extremes. We want to be gentle. We want to learn how to do it with rest and with softness. So, my hope for you is that today you are able to walk away not just informed, but also validated and empowered. Because healing doesn't have to be dramatic, it starts with small, gentle, and kind shifts. So let's get into it. Now, let's start with a phrase that a lot of us use casually. I feel fried. I feel exhausted. What does that actually mean? So, for most of the women that I do work with, this looks like constant brain fog, right? Your thoughts are moving through mud. It's very slow, it's very foggy. You're forgetting little things, even when you're trying really hard to stay organized. Maybe you're snapping at people that you love, even if you feel bad about it, even if it was an accident and it just happened. Maybe you're feeling numb, like you're completely checked out of your own life. Maybe you feel like you're even viewing your life from a third person perspective, like a bird's eye view. You might not even feel like you're in your body anymore. And there's this deep kind of tired that sleep just won't fix. So if any of that sounds familiar, I want you to know that this isn't weakness and it's not laziness. This is your nervous system saying, hey, I'm overwhelmed. Hey, I need a break. So we're going to gently walk through what's happening underneath these symptoms so that you can understand it, you can name it, and start to regulate it. But for now, just take a deep breath in and know that your exhaustion makes sense, that you are seen and you are not alone. So we've talked about what that fried feeling feels like. Let's talk about why it's happening. So one of the biggest culprits is sensory overload, which is insanely common in today's society. So from the moment that we wake up, we are flooded with stimulation. We have bright screens from our phone, our laptop, our computer, even the lights in our homes. There's endless notifications, endless pings, text messages, emails. We're multitasking at work, we're multitasking at home. Even if we're trying to rest, usually people tend to multitask. There's a lot of background noise. You never really get a moment of silence, right? There's a TV, there's podcasts, music, traffic, other people, social media, always something running in the background. And most of us are rarely in silence, right? We're rarely undistracted. And our brains, especially our nervous systems, were never designed to process this much information this quickly for this long. So it's like you're letting your mind get hit with 100 open tabs, right? Like on a computer, and it doesn't know which one to focus on. Eventually that computer is going to run really hot. So this is why you can't think clearly anymore, right? This is why when you try to rest doesn't feel restful. You don't feel better afterwards. This is why your body stays tense all the time, why You're full of tension and maybe even trigger points and pain, even when you're trying to lie down and relax. It's not about being bad at relaxing, it's just about being oversaturated mentally, emotionally, and physically by a world that clearly doesn't want to pause for anyone. So the good news is, though, that your system can reset. And today we are going to walk through how to start doing that in a gentle way that can actually fit into your life. So let's take a super simple look at what's happening when your brain becomes overwhelmed. So your brain has two main modes when it comes to your everyday life. The prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that helps you to plan, to focus, to regulate, to make decisions, to regulate those emotions. This works best when you are calm, when you're safe, and when you're not overwhelmed. But when you start to get flooded with too much input, the constant text messages, the emails, the scrolling, all of the noise, the multitasking, your brain starts to shift into survival mode. And when you shift into that survival mode, it activates what we call the limbic system. And that limbic system triggers that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. So when that happens, then your body's energy starts to go towards protection and not presence. So that's why you start to snap or shut down. That's why you can't concentrate even though you're trying. That's why you feel wired, you feel anxious, you feel foggy. Blood starts to rush into areas that matter more than the ones that the body focuses on when we're relaxing and not stressed. Right? That chronic technology overload sends your brain this message that something is not safe, right? Your system responds accordingly. So if you feel like you just can't focus or you just can't relax, it's not because you're failing. It's because your brain is trying to keep you alive in a world that feels overstimulating and unsafe. But the more that we start to understand all of this, the more we can start to shift it, right? Gently and slowly and with compassion. So most of us were taught to keep going, to push, to hustle, right? To drink more coffee, to take some vitamins, to power through whatever fatigue you're experiencing, to ignore those warning signs and just get stuff done. But the truth is that chronic stress actually changes the body. So when you do stay in that survival mode for too long, even if it's from what you think of as normal stress, like emails or deadlines or never-ending to-do lists, your body starts to inflame. And then your hormones start to change. And then your nervous system becomes dysregulated. So that means that your body stops being able to turn off the stress response. And then you stay stuck in that survival mode, which means you're staying stuck feeling wired but tired. You're stuck feeling emotionally reactive. You're stuck feeling foggy, numb, disconnected. And every time you ignore your body's cues and you override that exhaustion, you tend to push your system even further out of balance. That's basic biology, right? That's how our bodies function. That's how your brain and your body are telling you, hey, I can't keep pretending I'm fine. But it's good because when you stop pushing and you start to listen to your body, healing and recovery and progress on your journey absolutely becomes possible. Even if it's slow, even if it's messy, and it's not in a straight line, your body's just asking for help. So let's talk about a pattern that most of us get caught in. We get very exhausted, we get run down, our brains are tired, our bodies are tired, and then what do we typically reach for in today's day and age? We usually reach for our phone to unwind, right? But instead of feeling better, we start scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And when we do that, a lot of the time, it is overwhelming news headlines, very loud posts, very fast paced, obnoxious posts, right? These highlight reels, messages that you forget to respond to, work updates that maybe you weren't ready to see because you're checking it on the weekend. And then your body just tenses more and more and more. Your chest gets tight, you feel behind, you feel unproductive, you feel like you're not doing enough, you're incapable, you're not good enough for whatever it is you're trying to do. And then your nervous system spikes, your cortisol rises, the anxiety creeps in, it becomes overwhelming. And you didn't even mean for it to happen, right? And then comes the shame spiral. Well, why can't I focus? I wasted so much time. I should be doing something more useful. And this is what we call the scroll, stress, shame loop or cycle. And it's not your fault, right? These platforms like social media, our cell phones, technology, even TV with advertisements, they are all designed to overstimulate you. They are designed to grab your attention loudly, quickly, and very strongly. And it makes you feel like you're always falling behind, like you're never doing enough. So if this sounds familiar, please know that you are not broken and your body is reacting exactly how it is wired to. And that is for survival, not for social media. And the moment that we start to bring awareness to this, that's when we can start to gently step out of it, right? Awareness is the first step. So everything that we've talked about so far, the tech saturation, the sensory overload, the nervous system dysregulation, it doesn't just stay in your brain. And we've addressed that briefly because we've talked about potential hormone shifts. We've talked about the body being very tense and maybe even trigger points coming up in the muscles. This shows up in your everyday life, right? So in our community, we tend to hear these types of symptoms again and again. And I want to share them with you because they are so common, but a lot of people in everyday life don't talk about them. So one of the main ones that I hear all the time from women in my group, or even that I used to say when I was bedridden and very ill, was I can't focus on anything, right? I can't focus. My brain feels like static. It feels like I'm just so foggy up there. I cannot figure out what to say, what to do. I can't think straight. I can't make a decision. All of that can be related to your nervous system being dysregulated and you being stuck in that fight or flight mode. The smallest things make me snap at my partner or my kids, right? Having that short temper, snapping easily. I lie down to rest, but I feel too wired to actually sleep or to actually wind down and relax. Again, those hormones, that adrenaline, that cortisol gets to pumping, and it makes it difficult for your body to unwind or even to know when it's right to unwind. They'll sometimes say, even when I'm not working, I feel tense, right? Like my body is still bracing for something. So my question for you, if you could put in the live chat, or if you're watching the replay, if you could put in the comments section, can you relate to any of these and which ones? I want to know how you guys are feeling, which ones you guys are most relating to, so that we can help to provide free resources for you guys and to, offer you the best solutions that we can. So some of the most common patterns that I do see in women who are stuck in that chronic survival state are things like trouble focusing, even on simple tasks, right? You walk into a room and you're dead set on getting a job done. Maybe you walked into the room and you're like, hey, I'm coming in here, I'm going to take out the trash. But once you actually walk into the room, you forget why you walked in. Or maybe you were headed to the trash can and then your attention got caught by a pile of mail on the table side and you're like, oh, I'm going to sort through the mail first, right? So there's a lot of distractions that can happen, a lot of difficulty focusing on the task at hand. Again, that short fuse, that short temper, irritation and irritability over things that maybe in the past never used to bother you, right? Maybe it's the little things that just get under your skin, like hearing your husband breathing. I know it sounds silly, but I also know there are plenty of you that are going to understand what I mean when I say those little things. When you are overstimulated, the smallest things can set you off. Having a lot of restlessness during the day, but you're too exhausted to do anything, right? So for me, when I was at my lowest point and I was still bedridden, I had so much anxiety and I was excessively restless, but my body had no energy to move. It's like I had all of this energy, but no way to get it out of my system. And I know that there are plenty of you that feel that way. You feel too exhausted to move. You want to clean, you want to work, or you want to cook, or you want to spend time with the kids, or you want to go out and have some fun, whatever it is, but your body's just so drained that you can't do it. And then you get that tired but wired feeling at night, right? You end your day, maybe you have a night routine, maybe you don't. You go and you lay your head on your pillow and you're ready to fall asleep, and you felt so exhausted for the afternoon. And then as soon as your head hits the pillow, it's like you just had 6 cups of coffee, right? And all of these are tied to your nervous system, right? They're all tied to your body's stress response. So the more that we can recognize these, the more we can offer that body what it's actually craving. And that is that safety, right? That sense of safety, that softness, that regulation. All of that shifts it out of survival mode and into that place where it can rest, it can digest, and it can heal. So let's pause here for just a moment and talk about what your nervous system actually needs in order to regulate, in order to heal, in order to shift from that survival mode into the parasympathetic that we were talking about. So most of us were taught to reach for quick fixes, right? For those productivity hacks, for supplements, for a routine that promises to optimize our brain. And those are fantastic, and they can be wonderful to help you progress and to help you grow. But when you're already stuck in that chronic survival state, sometimes they can be even more overwhelming and more of a burden on your system, right? So when we want to regulate our nervous system and come out of that survival mode, it doesn't come from hustling harder, right? It comes from repair. It comes from proper rest, from helping your body feel that sense of safety. So what your nervous system really needs, again, is safety, not just a physical sense of safety, but emotional safety and sensory safety, right? It needs that stillness, a space to process, to reset, to stop reacting to all of the overstimulating elements in the environment. And then it also needs that slowness, right? That permission to move gently in a way that you don't have to rush your recovery. And I also want to introduce a concept that we call the soft reset. And it's the opposite of the cycle that I see so many people live in, and that is the push, crash, and cope cycle, right? So instead of waiting until you hit a wall and then trying to claw your way back out, a soft reset is about creating really small, regular moments in your day that nourish your nervous system. So a quiet moment without your phone, maybe a 5-minute phone break during your work morning and then another one in the afternoon, or taking a deep breathing break before jumping into the next task if you're feeling overwhelmed. Maybe that's regularly having a warm drink and some soft lighting and a really cozy blanket at night to get ready for bed. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be complicated, and it doesn't have to be really long and intense, right? I think a lot of the times with today's hustle culture and today's society, we tend to think bigger is better and harder is better and longer is better. But when it comes to teaching your nervous system safety, oftentimes it's really the opposite. So every time you choose that softness instead of the stress and the hustle, your body learns, oh, hey, I'm actually safe here. So, if there is one nervous system tool that is free, that is simple, and that is incredibly powerful, it is going to be nature, right? Our brains were not built for concrete and screens and fluorescent lights or LED lights, right? They were designed to regulate through natural rhythms that happen in our natural world. So, sunrises and sunsets, the bird songs, the fresh air, the water, the trees, this biophilic healing. And it is something that your body instinctively responds to. And there is plenty of research that shows even just 3 to 5 minutes in nature can help to lower your cortisol levels, right? And we were talking about cortisol earlier, is what makes you feel super anxious when you get that adrenaline rush. It makes you really inflamed and can imbalance your hormones. A few minutes in nature can help to decrease that anxiety, to slow down the heart rate. It's also been shown to help improve focus, to improve mood, and to calm down that fight or flight survival mode response. So you don't have to run off to a cabin in the woods off grid for a month. Just 3 to 5 minutes, right? If you can find somewhere, even if you live like in the city and it's really hard to find grass or trees, just a small patch of grass, stick your bare feet in it for 3 to 5 minutes and breathe and just be in the sun for a little while, right? These small practices can shift your entire day. So just a few minutes of morning sunlight can help to regulate that circadian rhythm, right? And get those hormones reset. Walking barefoot in grass or on some natural ground can help you feel grounded. Watching the trees blowing in the wind, watching the clouds, listening to the birds, all of that triggers natural hormonal rhythms and nervous system rhythms in our body. And nature isn't just nice to have, right? Because of all this, it is literally a biological need for our nervous systems and for our bodies. So when you do get burnt out and you are anxious and you feel overstimulated, even 3 to 5 minutes of that fresh air can start to bring you back home to yourself. Now, so many women that I work with do tend to say things like, I'm sleeping, but I'm still exhausted. They'll say, hey, even after I nap or I took a weekend off, I still feel overstimulated. And that's because, like I mentioned earlier, it has to be real rest, right? There's a type of rest that we don't talk about enough because people don't understand what quality rest is. And that's sensory rest, right? Sensory rest is about giving your brain a break and giving your body a break from constant input. Things like sounds, lights, textures, movement, screens, conversations, all of the invisible things that silently wear you down. And most of us tend to be in that sensory overload from the moment that we wake up, right? The bright phone, the background noise all day long. We're juggling tabs, emails, texts, harsh lighting, even clutter can happen, constant motion, constant go. And it's overwhelming, right? Sleep can help your body recover, but sensory rest helps your nervous system relax and feel safe. So that's part of the reason why if you sleep, you're like, hey, I'm so exhausted, and then you try to sleep and sleep and sleep, and you don't feel any different. You need that sensory rest. So here are a few simple ways that I do this myself, and I have the ladies in my group start to really rest, right? Spending a few minutes in complete silence. So for me, what I tend to do every hour, and I know this isn't feasible for everyone, I'm very blessed, I'm very lucky that I can do this, but every hour I take 5 minutes, step outside and go for just a short walk, or I stand in the sun, I get some fresh air, I breathe, just to relax and kind of reset my nervous system, right? Try to use warm, dim lighting at night. So like salt lamps or candles or, they have like warm vintage light bulbs that are not so bright and not the blue lights, not the white lights, but more of a warm lighting. Sipping on a warm tea, something warm and cozy, can really help your nervous system to slow down. Or even trying a screen-free evening, right? This is what we do in my house, is the last 30 minutes of the day, no phones, right? No TVs, read a book, talk, relax, breathe, stretch, meditate, whatever, but no screens, no electronics. And another thing you can do is to sleep with an eye mask or some kind of really soft fabric to help to block a bunch of visual input at night as well. So again, these don't have to be fancy things. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money to do this. It doesn't have to be perfect. What we're trying to do here is send the body the message that it can slow down now and that it is safe. That is what's most important. So when most people hear the term digital detox, they think about, well, deleting all of their apps or locking their phone in a drawer or going off grid for a week like we talked about earlier. And I do think that would be incredible for most of our bodies. And it sounds good in theory, but I don't think it's realistic for a lot of people, not even for myself, right? Especially those of us who juggle work or caregiving or kids or chronic fatigue or some other illness or some other responsibilities. You know, the truth is that you don't have to give everything up to get the relief, to get that digital detox result that we're looking for. We just have to learn how to create those boundaries that are going to let your nervous system breathe a little. And you can think of these like mini resets, like we talked about, the short 5 minutes throughout your day, right? Little sips of calm throughout the day, right? So 10 minutes of no phone time. Maybe that's before work, and like 30 minutes before bed, you just don't use electronics. Or changing your phone setting to do not disturb during your meals or during the nighttime. Or maybe choosing one walk per day, or even a week if you want to start with one walk a week. Tech-free walk, no phones, no music, no nothing. You're just going for a walk in nature, even if it's just around your backyard in circles. That's what I had to do. That's what I did when when I was going from my bedridden phase back to like fully functional, is I would just walk in my backyard. You can even swap like 15 minutes of scrolling on TikTok or Instagram or whatever social media you use for a hobby, right? Maybe you pick up journaling, or you start sketching or painting or crocheting or whatever it is. Maybe you just like to garden or cook. Picking up a relaxing hobby and just doing it for 15 minutes a day, right? If you're someone who scrolls on social media, I can almost guarantee you scroll longer than 15 minutes. So take 15 minutes away from that time and pick a soft hobby and try that, right? Be small with it, be flexible, and be consistent, because we don't want to indicate that our nervous system is doing something wrong, right? Because if we go too hard, too fast with any of these things, our brain and our body are going to see this as punishment. It's going to see it as rules. And we as humans don't really like to follow rules a lot of the time, right? So when we go slow and gentle with it and gently start to add these things into our day over time, again, it gives us that sense of safety and comfort. And you'll eventually start coming back to these things, and you'll be looking forward to these things because they give you a breather, right? And if you slip up, that's okay, right? Maybe you missed a week or you missed a day or whatever. That's okay. Just come back to it whenever you can, right? One pause at a time, because we're not looking to be perfect. This is to remind our body that it's okay to unplug, right? That it's safe to disconnect. And rest does not have to be earned. That is the most important thing you can take away from today, is that rest does not have to be earned. So if your brain feels overloaded, your body feels tense, your emotions feel like they're all over the place, the last thing you need is more pressure or that I need to fix it energy, right? We need that softness. And when I say softness, I don't mean weakness. I don't mean laziness. I'm talking about the nurturing energy that says, hey, I'm safe, right? We don't have to brace anymore. And you can do that by incorporating the cozy hobbies that we talked about earlier, right? Maybe that's gardening or watercolor, or you're reading a book, something gentle and slow. Having slow morning routines, slow evening routines, right? When we set rhythms consistently, Our body associates that with peace and safety and structure. Maybe incorporating really soft textures, right? Like a soft robe or warm socks into our routines, or a weighted blanket. Or for me, I incorporate movement, right? So I do yin yoga for 15 to 30 minutes before bed every night. Now, you don't have to do yin yoga. I liked it because it was something that I could do when I was bedridden. You could even do just rocking in a chair, right? Or maybe going for a short walk. Anything, even dancing for 15 to 30 minutes a day. All of these are comfort. They are regulation tools for that nervous system. And they help you to shift out of that survival mode and back into that parasympathetic safety mode where your brain can rest, right? In that rest and digest and heal mode, our bodies can't heal unless they are in that zone. So when we're chronically stuck in that survival mode, our bodies are enduring stress and damage every single day. And it cannot heal and repair properly unless we can shift into rest and digest and heal. So I think one of the hardest parts of healing from a chronic illness or from burnout, from anxiety, recovering from all of this, is that it doesn't happen overnight, right? And I want to say this clearly and compassionately as possible. That's okay, right? You're not behind. This is how I felt I was behind when I was bedridden. I was devastated and I thought it was the end of the world. I thought, oh my gosh, this is the end of my life. How am I ever going to recover from all of this? I thought I was so far behind. But I'm here to tell anyone who's going through it, you are not behind, right? Your brain is constantly changing. It is constantly growing and developing. And this is thanks to neuroplasticity, right? So neuroplasticity means that your brain is capable of rewiring. It is capable of adapting. It is capable of making new neural connections that help your body to heal, right? It doesn't do this through force, though. It does it through repetition and safety, kind of like learning a new language. Learning a new language includes neuroplasticity, right? No one learns a new language by reading a book one single time, right? You learn it through repetition. Every time that you pause to breathe, every time you take those short walks, every time you choose to rest, you're giving your brain that safety signal, and it needs that consistently, right? It needs those tiny cues. And those tiny cues might feel like nothing. I know they sound like nothing. I know because I was there. When I was bedridden, they sounded like nothing to me, right? I was like, there's no way. My doctor kept saying, well, just walk for 5 minutes. You'll be fine. Like, this is insane. I need somebody to help me, really fix me. No, a lot of the time what we need is to shift out of that survival mode so our body can regulate itself, right? And it's the little things. It really and truly is. Over time, they retrain our nervous systems, right? They retrain our nervous systems to believe, hey, I don't have to stay stuck in this fight or flight. Hey, I'm okay now. And that healing isn't linear, right? Your recovery journey is not going to look like anyone else's. And I promise you, no one's is linear, right? Some days you're going to feel softer. You're going to feel more relaxed. You're going to feel like you're making progress. Some days might feel like a setback. It is a part of the process, right? The truth is, it is supposed to be slow and sustainable, because if it's not slow and it's not repetitive, I assure you it will not be sustainable. And sustainable is what will make the world of difference, right? So if you've been waiting for that moment when you magically snap out of it, things just go back to normal, you can stop waiting, because that healing, that recovery is happening. It's tiny, it's slow, it's going to happen in beautiful ways. You make progress with that consistency and that safety. So by now you have heard plenty of ideas and examples. We've talked about different things that you can try. Let's kind of pull it all together into a simple, gentle daily reset routine that you can try this week or next week if you want to, with a morning, midday, and evening reset. So again, you can change this to fit your schedule, to fit your needs, what you like, what you feel safe with. I don't want this to be strict. I don't want it to be another chore to check off your list. It is designed to create some structure, but a loose structure, right? One that allows your body to flow, that honors your body's natural need for that pause and that regulation, and gives you time to really rest. So, morning. One of the most important things that we can do when we wake up, if the sun is out, immediately go outside. And if you have glasses, try to take those off. Don't look through a window. You need to get direct wavelengths into your eyes. Okay? This does not mean stare at the sun. Please don't do that. That's not the best idea ever. Just get your eyes out in the sunlight. Look at the trees, the birds, the grass, whatever it is you can look at. Just look around. Within the first, I prefer the first 15 minutes of waking up if you can, but first hour, I know the first 15 minutes can be a bit of a fight for some of us. But even if you're just out there for 2 minutes, that's all you need. 2 minutes, first thing in the morning, eyes in the sun. And then what you need to do is drink some water before coffee, before food. Drink water, hydrate. You have been all night without water. You've been all night without electrolytes. Drinking water is going to help rehydrate your body. It's going to help support your adrenals. Bonus points if you want to sprinkle a little bit of Celtic sea salt in there for electrolytes. And then just a few minutes of movement. And the funny thing is you can incorporate all this together, right? Go grab a glass of water from the kitchen, go outside, walk around and drink your water while you're taking in something in the horizon. 2 to 5 minutes. That's it. Start there. And then go about your day like nothing ever happened. And then in the middle of your day, maybe around lunchtime or whenever you can get a break, just take 5 minutes away from screens, right? Maybe go back outside or down the hall or up and down the stairs, somewhere away from screens, and just go for a short walk. Maybe do a round of some deep breathing, even if it's just 3 physiological sighs or 4 or 5 rounds of box breathing. Or just sit there quietly, right? And let those thoughts come and go. And if you feel really frazzled, put your hand on your chest, the other on your belly, and do 3 slow breaths, right? Physiological sighs are my favorite. They help to really calm that vagus nerve. So it's just 2 inhales and then 1 exhale. So like this. Just like that. Real simple. 3 of those resets that vagus nerve like magic. Okay, and then in the evening before bed, these routines are going to be really important for getting that quality sleep. So again, I typically do 30 minutes, but start with 5 minutes, right? Start with 5 minutes before you typically go to bed and just say, hey, no electronics, 5 minutes before bed. We're going to dim the lights in the house. We're going to be quiet, maybe meditate, stretch, whatever. Just no electronics, no notifications, and just be here in the silence and be present. That gives your body some time to relax and to slow down and prepare for sleep. Because contrary to the way that society seems to make us believe, the moment your head hits the pillow, you are not supposed to fall asleep, right? Our hormones dictate when we sleep. So our hormones need a few moments to say, hey, let's start pumping out this melatonin so that we can fall asleep. And it pumps out a little more, and then we get sleepy over time, and then we fall asleep. So the more you can make your nighttime routine cozy, the easier it's going to be for you to fall asleep at night. All right? So none of this, again, I don't want you to feel pressured. Start really slow, really small. Add 1 or 2 things in each day until you build a full daily reset routine for yourself. And I promise this is going to be the best cushion you've ever sat on. So you can adjust this to your energy level each day. You know, when I was recovering on my flare-up days, I would kind of adjust this time-wise and maybe slow down a bit with some of the walks and things like that. The goal here is, again, to signal to your nervous system, we are safe, right? So try it out. Let us know how it goes in our community section. And yeah, we'd love to know about it. So I do want to take a moment to speak to the part of you that may be thinking this sounds nice, but I'm too tired. Because when I was bedridden, that's what I was thinking. I was like, this is ridiculous. I can't do any of this. I'm too tired to do any of it. Like, how do you expect me to do any of this? I'm exhausted, right? I can barely chew my food. I can barely drink water. I can barely go to the bathroom. So if this is where you are right now, I see you, I've been there, and you are not doing anything wrong. I want you to understand your body's trying to protect you, right? When you are deeply exhausted, mentally, physically, emotionally, even the smallest things can feel impossible. So instead of trying to do everything that we talked about, like I said, start small. Pick the lowest hanging fruit. Which one on this list looks easiest to you? Which one looks the most doable in this moment, right? Maybe it's opening a window and just breathing fresh air for 60 seconds, right? Maybe it's stepping outside and feeling the sun on your face for 60 seconds. To put things into perspective, when I was starting to get movement back into my routine, I still couldn't go outside because I couldn't tolerate heat because of the POTS. But what I started doing to gently regulate my nervous system and signal to it that it was safe and okay, I would open my back door and kind of just stand there for 30 seconds, right? And let that warm air hit me. That's not to say I didn't have a mild reaction every time. I did, but over time, my body started to learn, hey, we're safe, we can handle this. And I got to build up that strength more and more. And now I'm doing yard work in 90-degree weather. So not all the time, but because it's hot and humid here. You know, we have a really high heat index. But again, I mean, I couldn't even go off my back porch. I couldn't even go out the back door at one point. So we gently, slowly encourage your body to try new things. And it will regulate and it will learn, hey, this is actually okay. I can do this, right? So again, I know it might seem like nothing because we're taking really small steps, but I promise you they add up over time and they do matter. Every gentle shift that you choose, no matter how small it is a step towards a regulated nervous system. And that is a step towards your future and feeling healthier and happier and well again. And maybe most importantly, be kind to the part of you that's trying. Right? I think that was the hardest part for me in my journey, was giving myself some grace and compassion, right? That part of you that's suffering is not lazy. That part of you is very brave because they are still showing up even in the middle of burnout, especially if you are this far into this video. No one likes educational videos except for nerds like me, okay? Most people I care because I'm just a nerd, but like most people don't care. They're just like, fix me and let me feel better. If you are here through this part of this video, you are very brave and you are very courageous because you're still showing up even in the middle of all of that burnout. So I commend you for that. And I want this to be a reminder for you that you don't have to get it right every time. You don't have to be perfect. My journey was not linear. My journey was not perfect. I had flare-ups, I had setbacks, and I still made it. You just have to start right where you are. And I want to say that I am more than happy to assist you on that journey. So before we close, let's take a deep breath in and out together. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Again, I want to mention, you are not lazy, you are not failing, you're overstimulated. And your body is doing the best that it can to protect you in a world that moves too fast for all of us, that is asking too much regularly, and a world that is rarely making space for us just to exist. But I promise you, recovery is possible. And it doesn't start with force or hustle or willpower. It starts with those senses of safety, with that softness, with those tiny moments of rest that remind your brain, hey, I'm okay right now. So if today's message spoke to you inside, deep inside, and you felt like you are ready to explore more on a personal level, more gently, and you're really ready to take that next step, there are a few things that you can do. So you can work one-on-one with me. I am more than happy to take on new clients at this time. If you want that personalized support, we can gently explore your stress patterns, explore your nervous system health, and create a calm, sustainable plan together. If you are not ready for one-on-ones, we do have a free community that is also going to be linked below. And that is a safe space that we have to learn from each other, to share our stories with one another, and to co-regulate with other people who truly get it. So co-regulation basically means when you are around people who are healing and recovering and improving and getting better, your body's going to sense that and it's going to follow, right? It senses that feeling of safety and then it starts to follow in their footsteps. And it's a very beautiful thing. You can also click the link below and take our stress resilience index quiz to find out where your nervous system may be stuck and to also get some simple free next steps to help you feel better. So no pressure. We're just inviting you to join us on this journey, whether you want to join our community or dive deeper into the one-on-one sessions. You deserve to feel safe in your own body again, and I would be honored to walk with you. I will see you guys next week with our next tendon talk. I hope you have a blessed weekend.